Hey, what's good, everybody? Hey, we here. We meet again. And so we're going to talk about social engineering again. And so it's one thing that we talked about life is full of shit. But in part two, we're going to talk about how ignorance is bliss. So I want you to watch until the end because this is just the beginning of a conversation. And trust me, this is not the last one. It's your boy Jaron with Power and Leadership Enterprise, helping leaders develop great plans. This topic I want to talk about is important because in life, change is inevitable and change is necessary, and there's nothing wrong with change. But at the same time, us as social creatures, we got to understand the changes around us so we know how to move correctly and appropriately. Now, one thing I want to tell you, a lot of times my concepts and what I talk about is more catered to business owners, but don't get it twisted. I do not forget where I came from, and so I remember the grind at the job. I remember just how me and my friends how we're interpreting this life, and we're just discussing these topics amongst one another. At the same time, as we're building our own personal brands, how when they when I say they, I'm talking about jobs, promote diversity, how it is that we let our interpretations out in an appropriate type of way, because sometimes it's certain conversations not going to be meant for certain folks, because let's just be real, they're not ready. All right, so yes, I relate to business owners on the grind, but this is also for the people who are minding their business and commit to being the best versions of themselves in their realm of life. So, with that being said, social engineering is something that is always going on. All right, it's something that's always been going on. It's something that's been always going on since the beginning of time. What if I was to tell you that there are powers that be, that they are in secret societies that want to affect cultural change? Why do I say that? Because what if I was to tell you that in order to build wealth, yes, we want to build 10-year plans, 20-year plans, and invest accordingly, right? We want to think about our grandkids, right? And in that being said, we're thinking 30 years ahead. So what if I was to tell you there's people that's thinking 100 years ahead? They think about their grandkids. And I would tell you, like, it just makes sense to me logically that if I'm going to think about my grandkids, I'm about to think about how us as social creatures are going to be interacting with one another. It's one thing that I want my business to go through success, and I pause for a second because there are different time frames of a business where it comes to a point where you're going to have to sell the business. But think about that. If I know that as a fairly new entrepreneur, then the people that are very successful, that are billionaires, they definitely know that a business is going to die. And they know about cultural change. There's two factors. So then they will know to provide the blueprint, or to at least provide the context to allow the mindset to be in the right way to start another business that's going to be around for decades. Okay? And so, like I said, this whole video is about social engineering, so we got to understand the social aspect and how that's going to impact our lives. All right? So once upon a time, I want to say once upon a time, it's actually about 2 years ago, I learned a concept called whale watching. And what it was referring to was you have different investors when it comes to the stock market, and you have like retail investors, people that are investing maybe a certain amount of perhaps their paychecks, okay, or a certain portion of their income. I'm gonna be honest, I am in that portion. Then you got people that are investing hundreds of dollars to thousands of dollars. But when we're talking about whale watching, we're talking about people that are investing millions of dollars. And the reason why that's important is because this affects cultural change, because this starts dealing with policies. This starts dealing with politicians, because you can have one investor pull out of a company, say that's $1 billion company, and if they take that money out, that's going to affect operations. Okay? If that affects operations, then what happens is that automatically affects supply. Everything about business, including people that's working at a job, it's all about supply and demand. So even if you don't care about business, the job that you're working at has a demand. There is a marketplace for it. So there's a demand, okay? If the price is going to be affected, then let's say the price goes up, right? Then the demand is going to become lower, okay? So that's why I said politicians have to get involved, because they do not want, and it's actually illegal to have monopolies, but to be in the position that a business owner or an investment firm can have so much power to affect the nation and the world as we know it as a whole. They don't want that to happen. All right. So I learned this term whale watching, and the benefit of it was really that if we watch how they are investing, while they may get billions of dollars in their investments, if the crumbs that they're making, me as a person that may be investing hundreds of dollars, or I could be investing $80, depending on the type of stock and how many shares I want. I can be investing, I wouldn't say hundreds if I'm only investing maybe $160 at a time. I would say hundreds to the people that are investing $800 to maybe $1,000 at a time. Okay, I can get some crumbs. You know what I'm saying? And regardless, if I'm investing into an asset, that's putting me more on the path to wealth than me investing into, just be real with you, shit that's not going to make me money in the long run, even in the short run. Basically, I'm throwing my money away. All right? So we watch what they do. And the thing is, it's not just the money. We watch the resources that they are investing into. So what that means is apps. What that means is like AI. And if you do your research, you can find out how many billions of dollars are put into the research of that. Okay? And so we might not have our own resource department, but we could do our due diligence and find out where they are. But at the same time, these companies, and then, it's hierarchies and levels to this. You can see where they're investing. And like I said, you can get in too. All right. It's one thing to be afraid of our competitors, but then there's another thing to watch what they're doing and get in fast. Get in fast, because I'm trying to tell you, and I'm going to say it a lot, it's something that I had to find out. Like, just a real quick backstory on me. A long time ago, I would refer to myself as shy or more of an introvert. But what I realized is life don't care. Life doesn't care about that. All right? So you can't be bullshitting when you find out where the money's going. So with anybody that's caring about politics, and we got to get away from the character, we got to follow where the money is going. All right? Like I said, that's dealing with whale watching, but it affects us because with these apps, you have a floodgate of personalities coming in, and there's gonna from these different personalities, you have cultural aspects that these personalities derive from. Everybody is a part of a community, okay? So in that, depending on the person and how much power that they have, then we have an aspect of social engineering. So it affects business, it affects our life. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. So back in the day, we found our news in newspapers. Now we have Twitter. I'm just giving you a couple of examples. We used to watch nightly news, but now you can watch YouTube. We used to voice our opinions in town hall meetings, but now we can make a video on Instagram and YouTube, and I can keep going. When doing it properly, we can save time. Menial tasks that took hours can be done in minutes at our fingertips. So, a side of me wants to be nostalgic. A side of me wants to say, I miss the old days. A side of me wants to leverage on that thought because to an extent, I can almost say that we are slowing down the human evolution by letting robots and computers and smartphones take hold of what our mind can do. I always believe internally is where we really develop. So using these external devices that we've slowed down evolution to an extent, you can look into that on your own. But while it's it's a good thing in the sense that you don't really have a choice, but there's millions of dollars behind it. It's ways that you can feed your family on it. You know what I mean? So while and I would hate for anyone to sell their soul, but while you may feel convicted in one way, you gotta look at the opportunity. And you gotta look at the opportunity of how it's gonna work for you. So, like I said, whether it's your business or whether you're in your job, social engineering does affect business. All right? And lastly, I'm gonna say we are in the age based on partnerships. Okay? So even if it's you that don't understand, you may bring something to the table, but somebody else may be able to complete what it is that you have a vision for. All right. I will also say, on the contrary, some of the systems that have been overthrown by technological advances still have dominion, or still they dominate authority in the policies that are formed and the laws that we must abide by. So I say, use these new vices to your benefit, but don't forget the old ways, okay? So if there's a takeaway from this video, it's that, yes, use the new technological advances, but at the same time, don't skip over the fact, because, and I'm sorry if I'm getting, my thoughts mixed up a little bit, but the prevalence of the different topics that are discussed in these new platforms sometimes have us to be so glued in over here, but whole time, the old ways, they still have some type of prevalence. And so you can almost say to an extent that sometimes there are distractions. Because I said in the beginning, there could be powers that be that care about the cultural shifts. So who's to say that there are intentional practices, intentional events that come about that have you shift your attention one way while the old ways are still going on. Those are the policies and the laws that's going on. And we still can practice in both. It was a saying by Prince before he died. Get on the internet, get on the computer, but don't let the computer get on you. Still be privy, still understand, still know what's going on when it comes to the real world that's right here in front of you, compared to the world that they try to show you that's around you. All right? So I hope you enjoy this. As I mentioned, this is not the last one. Social engineering does affect business. Let's start a conversation. So please comment below. At the same time, share it, because we are building an enterprise, and it's not just about me, but it's about you as well.